Hello, everybody out there in Rumble X and YouTube land. Welcome back to Diego Knows. I, of course, am Diego, and today we're going to talk some more about The Housemaid, the feminist fake movie that came out last year that's made a lot of money, like $380 million on a $35 million budget. It's part of the chick flick genre, which I review here on this channel. I give you a straight man's point of view. That's the point of view you never got. Okay, when you watch this movie with your girlfriends or your gay friends, okay, or you dragged your husband or boyfriend to watch this piece of crap, okay, they're not going to tell you that. I'm going to tell you the truth. Okay, I got nothing to gain by lying to you. All right, I'm going to give you a straight man's point of view. That's what I give you here. Okay, if you want to hear, get a review about how nice, Sydney Sweeney's hair was, or her nails, or look at that outfit that Nina Winchester was wearing in that one. If you're doing that, you're on the wrong channel. Go over there. There's plenty of gay stuff that do that. Plenty of female channels that'll do that. Okay, I'm not here for that. Okay, I'm here to give you the raw truth, straight up, baby, with no lube. There ain't no lube here. I ain't got any. I'm never gonna have any. I'm gonna give it to you straight up and hard, the way you like it. Okay, that's what this channel is. Okay, screw all the other gay stuff. That's not what we're about here at all. Okay, there's plenty of channels for that. Okay, I'm gonna give it to you raw, bareback, all the way. Okay, because that's the real way. Okay, what do you call it? And so if you can't handle it, go watch another channel. I mean, come on, you know. I'm not gonna sugarcoat nothing. Okay, I would rather you know the truth. That's how much respect I have for you. I would rather you know the truth. I know it's gonna break your spell. Okay, I know it's gonna, make you question the way you've been looking at this movie. Okay, and probably chick flicks in general. Okay, I know it's gonna do that. Okay, but I would rather you know the truth. I would rather you know the truth than continue to believe a fallacy, continue to believe the world works this way. Okay, and that these things can happen to you. That's probably the biggest thing, is with these chick flicks, is that, I'll watch like a guy movie, I'll watch like a Dirty Harry movie. I know it's old, I'm dating myself, okay, but I'm not that old. Those movies came out before I was born, all right? But something like The Predator, or like a Schwarzenegger movie from the 80s, or a Stallone movie from the 90s, or something like that, or even like the Expendables movies, those are really good. I like those movies. The last one sucked. Okay, but like stuff like that, guy movies. Okay, guy movies. All right, men watch guy movies. Okay, they don't make them anymore, but they used to. Okay, even the guy movies today are all feminist crap. All right. But there was a time when they actually cared about what men watched. They actually made movies for men. Okay, and in those movies, yes, the circumstances were crazy, Die Hard, whatever. Okay, of course it was over the top. Okay, it was larger than life. Okay, but we went in there knowing that we weren't going to watch reality. We were going to watch something else, like a superhero movie or a Star Wars or something like that. Okay, we knew that wasn't realistic. We knew that, and we left the theater knowing that stuff was never going to happen to us. I was never going to get bitten by a radioactive spider and get superpowers and fight crime. Okay, I knew that wasn't going to happen. Okay, but I enjoyed that movie a lot. Okay, because it turned my brain off for a little bit, but I got to empathize with the main character. I got to see what he was going through, so I imagined myself going through the exact same circumstances. You see what I mean? That was the relatability part. Okay, of course, having superpowers is not realistic, okay, but we knew that. And when we left the theater, we knew that wasn't going to happen. We knew we weren't going to get bitten by a radioactive spider. We're not going to get powers. We're not going to join the Avengers. Okay? We know that. We knew it going in. We knew it when we were watching the movie, and we knew it when we left the theater. Okay? We were just entertained for 2 hours or whatever. That's all it was. Okay? It was entertainment. It was kind of a fantastical entertainment, but that was it. Okay? There were some realistic themes in there, power and responsibility. Yes, those are important things. Okay, with great power does come great responsibility. That's a life lesson there. It's a truth bomb, of course. So, there was some subtext to what we were watching, okay? But it didn't really go deeper than that, okay? It was a popcorn movie, all right? You ladies watch these chick flicks, okay, like this one, The Housemaid, okay? And you think this stuff is real. Oh, the movie, it's a feminist movie. It's drawing attention, to abuse. to domestic violence that women suffer all over the world. This movie is a testament, to bringing attention to domestic violence and how horrible men are to women and the patriarchy and the abuse that women have to suffer in silence. I'm trying to help women. That's why I made this movie. That's why I wrote it. Get the fuck out of here with that fucking noise. Okay? Get out of here with that crap. Okay? This ain't the 70s. This ain't the 80s. Okay? That time is gone. Okay? This is like the 6,735th, movie that was bringing attention to domestic violence in the past like 5 years. Okay? It's done. It's been done. The attention's already there. Okay? There's plenty of laws against it. There's plenty more women now that are not afraid to report their husbands and boyfriends for that crap. Okay? It's not like it was in the 70s. It's not like, you were married to a guy and if you left him or something, how were you going to be, who's going to support you? You see what I mean? Those times are gone now. That's not the typical female experience anymore for victims of abuse. Okay? That time has come and it's gone and it ain't coming back. All right? The idea of a housewife is something that is just so foreign. Okay? Most adults today have grown up never seeing a housewife. Okay? Never knowing what that was. Okay? Other than in old TV shows and old movies. Okay? That's done. Women are working. They're getting educated. They're going to college more than men are. Okay? Women have their own buying power now. They have their own agency. Okay? This isn't the 1950s anymore. This isn't the 1960s or the 70s or the 80s where domestic violence was rampant. Okay? We know about it now. Okay? There's laws in place to protect women from that now. Now, there's none to protect men, but, movies don't talk about that part. You see what I mean? It's done. It's done. This movie's not bringing attention to nothing. It's not shining a spotlight on something, that society doesn't want to deal with or talk about. Okay, that's done. I remember when I was a little boy, I saw a made-for-TV, it wasn't even theatrical, it was a made-for-TV movie. Okay? With Farrah Fawcett. It was called The Burning Bed. Okay, and some of you that are old, you know what I'm talking about. Farrah Fawcett, I think she actually won an Emmy for that. Farrah Fawcett, before that, she was known for two things. She cheated on her husband, Lee Majors, the $6 Million Man, to be with Ryan O'Neal. Okay, she was famous for that scandal. And she was also famous for one season of Charlie's Angels, which was a hit TV show that she was in the first season, okay? She was famous for that, and because of that, Charlie's Angels, she had like the highest selling poster in the world. Now, her in her bikini, where she's like smiling at the camera, looking up with her head tilted. Okay, that pose, that was like the largest selling poster in the whole world, like in 1977 or 78 or something like that, okay? Those three things, that's what she was famous for. Okay, but now she's trying to do drama. Okay, she did a movie called The Burning Bed. I saw it over and over again when I was a kid because my brother, we videotaped it and we watched it over and over again. All right, that's how I knew about it. I could quote that movie by heart. Okay, I have the entire script memorized. Okay, but we watched The Burning Bed, and in that movie, it was a true story about a woman who got her ass kicked by her husband. Okay, the movie came out in the 80s, but it took place in the 70s. All right, and she had, she was trailer park trash all the way. Okay, so was her husband, beat the crap out of her, all that kind of stuff. And then after a few years of this, she finally decided enough is enough, and she crept into his room while he was passed out drunk, okay, in the bed. Okay, she put her kids in the car, and then she went in there and she poured gasoline over him while he was passed out, and she set his ass on fire. Yes, she did. And of course he died, burned down the house and all that stuff, and she drove off with her kids. Okay, well, during the trial, the defense lawyer, played by Richard Mazur, famous character actor, he tries to convince the jury, hey, listen, she wasn't thinking straight when she did this, man. She was under so much physical and emotional abuse from this guy. This guy controlled every aspect of her life. Okay, she wasn't capable of thinking rationally at this time. Okay, when she set him on fire, he had beaten the crap out of her. And then forced her to drop out of school. She was just trying to get her GED so she could get a job, and he canceled all that. You see what I mean? And so she was done. She had reached her breaking point. She was not thinking clearly. Okay, and she killed him. Okay, and that's what they managed to prove in the court case. Her name was Francine Hughes, and she was found not guilty by reason of insanity. Okay, that was the verdict, and that was the end of the movie. Like, oh, she's hugging her kid, she's not going to go to jail. Okay, that is a special case. Okay, but that movie did a lot more for bringing awareness to domestic violence, because that movie came out like in 1985, 84, something like that. Okay, and it was a made-for-TV movie, so there's no nudity or nothing, no swearing, nothing like that. Okay, so that movie did a lot more to bring attention to domestic violence because of that. And this woman she got away with it. Okay, but once you see her circumstances, you could understand. Yes, it is possible that if I had been in that situation, I would have flipped out like her, and I probably would have done what she did as well. Okay, maybe I would, maybe not. The point is that she wasn't thinking straight at that time. Okay, so I had all sorts of sympathy for her, and I understand her situation. Okay, she was in a really horrible situation. Okay, it doesn't mean killing her husband was right, okay, but she had tried to leave him before, okay, and they always tracked her down and got her back. This wasn't a woman who had resources. This wasn't a woman who knew people, okay? This was a woman who grew up on welfare. I mean, she had nothing, okay, no education, no nothing, no savings, nothing, okay? So, like, her options were very limited, and she had like 3 kids to take care of, so, in a situation like that, I could feel empathy for her. I could feel sorry. I don't excuse what she did, but I understand why she did it. Okay, she should have gotten something. Okay, maybe, involuntary manslaughter or something like that. Okay, I don't think she should have gotten first-degree murder, but she was acquitted anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, but in that situation, I can understand. Okay, it's not 1984 anymore. Okay, this movie came out in 2025, and I think she wrote the book. Sarah Cohen. Oh, I'm sorry. Frida McFadden, her pen name, Frida McFadden. I think she wrote this like in 2022 or 2023. Okay, and the movie came out in 2025. Okay, so it's from a word processor or whatever, to movie script to being filmed was like 2 years, a year and a half. Okay, so and she's written 2 more sequels since then. Okay, so that's where we got this thing. Okay, and it's trying to raise awareness to domestic violence. Okay, that's the whole subtext of this movie. Domestic violence is a real issue that women deal with every day, and this movie shows the horrors of it not being reported and how men get away with it. Well, most men are not like this guy, this Andrew Winchester. Okay, most men are not 6'2", hung to their shoe, ripped abs. Okay, square jawed, filthy, stinking rich, charming, seductive, charismatic, loved by everyone in the neighborhood, educated, those crap. Okay, most guys are not like that. Okay, but in these chick flicks, all guys are like that. Okay, because they're the villain. Okay, they're the bad guy. Okay, like I said in the last video. Okay, in order for the women to watch this movie and buy into the story, okay, well, what is it about this guy that I would fall under his spell? And then you see him, Prince Charming, Captain Save-A-Ho, everything, James Bond, everything just rolled up into one guy. You see what I mean? Most guys are not like that. Most guys are not like him. And the movie's telling you that he's the bad guy because he is those things. Because he is a 10, therefore he's a threat to you. Okay? So it's understandable why she fell under his spell. Okay, but now that I know what he really is, then he needs to be destroyed. He needs to be brought down a couple of levels. And we can do that, okay, by by telling women don't date guys that are 10s. Okay, because they are above you and they will use you. Okay, you need to be better looking than them. Okay, you need to be, above them. Okay, you see what I mean? That's what the movie's telling you. Okay? Because even though he checks off all the boxes, okay, it turns out he's an asshole. That's what this movie's telling you. Okay? Strong, tough, empowered women don't need no man. And here's a guy who's a 10, and both the women, Nina and Millie, don't need him. Turns out they don't need him after they never did. See what I mean? Female empowerment, okay, who's the boss bitch? Nina or Millie? Which one's the bigger boss bitch that's gonna take out this asshole? Because all men are assholes, okay? All the men in this movie, either they're limp dick fucking nobodies who can't do anything. They're impotent, metaphorically and, and literally, whatever, okay? Or they're just evil. They're evil, they're misogynistic, they're trash, they use women, they abuse women, and the women are helpless. Oh, there's nothing I can do. Somebody help me. Ah! You see what I mean? They want you to believe that crap. And I understand women, a lot of you feel that way sometimes in your life. I get it. Okay? But it's not 24/7. Most of you don't feel that way all the damn time. Okay? Something that I learned, part of growing up, okay, try being an adult is just learning that, you know what, sometimes you got to accept responsibility for your own actions. Sometimes you got to accept the consequences of your own bad decisions. And I don't mean it in the way that Andrew meets it in this movie. He's talking about torturing a woman because she didn't meet his standards. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, like, hey, listen, if you date a guy, if you fuck a guy after 6 months, he's proposing to you because he meets all the check boxes that you have. Why don't you question yourself into why would a guy commit to me this fast? Why would a guy like him commit to me this fast? What is he getting out of it? Now, this movie never asked that question, okay? The script writer, the woman who wrote this book, and the screenwriter never asked that question. But I'm a straight guy. I'm going to ask that question. What the fuck does he see in Nina? What the fuck is there about Nina that he wants to fucking wife her up? Okay, she's a single mom, for Christ's sake. Okay, that right there takes her out of the category. If I was a guy like Andrew Winchester, the last thing I'm going to do is date a fucking single mom, much less ask her to marry me. Okay? Think a guy of that status wants to spend the next 20 or so fucking years raising a child that's not his? Are you fucking crazy? You think men dream about that and fantasize about that? No! Those guys only show up in your fantasies, ladies, not in ours. Okay, so just the little things like that. This movie doesn't want you to think about those. They don't want you to think about other possibilities, about other options. You see what I mean? They want you to be stupid. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to be stupid for a freaking movie. I'm not. Chick flicks in general have a lot of shortcomings, okay? And I saw this video here, and I'm going to share it. But there was this one video by this YouTuber I watched named Disparu, okay? And he's a British guy, so he sounds kind of funny. He's got the accent and all that. But he did point something out. He said that movies that are directed by men are better than movies that are directed by women. Now, it sounds sexist, doesn't it? Oh, how dare you say that, And he backed it up, though. He says, like, listen, when a man, when men make movies for everybody, okay? Guy movies are mostly for everybody. A superhero movie is for everybody, not just for the guy. Although they know that it's mostly men who are going to go to the theater to see it, it's still for everybody. Okay, I mean the reason that Thor and Captain America take off their shirts in their movies, their superhero movies, is not for the guys; it's for the women. Okay, we can go through fine without having to see that, but the women want to see it. You see what I mean? That's why it's there, because this movie's trying to appeal to everyone, not just the men. You see what I mean? That's the difference. Okay, when guys make a movie, they're trying to appeal to everybody, not just the men. You see what I mean? Whereas chick flicks are only appealing to women or gay guys, which is such a smaller audience. A smaller audience. That if anyone from the mainstream audience were to watch this movie, they'd be like, what the fuck is this? This makes no sense. You see what I mean? Like, who relates to this? Who is this for? Oh, it's for all the women that have been abused out there. It's all the women so that they don't ever get abused. It's for, okay, well, those women don't turn up for these fucking movies. They typically don't. You see what I mean? It's just not the same. Now, this movie's a success. And by success, I mean $380 million, which is a lot of money, obviously. Okay? But a guy movie, like a Captain America movie, I mean, their budget is that much. Okay? And those movies bring back $1.5 billion. Okay, so clearly they appeal to more people than The Housemaid does. You see what I mean? If they call it there's 4 different quadrants of demographics that movies are trying to appeal to. This movie appeals to like 2 of them. Okay? Whereas something like a Captain America movie would appeal to all 4. There's something in there for everybody, not just for the men. You see what I mean? That's what I'm talking about. Okay? And these movies don't do that. They don't appeal to everybody. They only appeal to that niche. Okay, that small group of women and gay guys that want to see this stuff. Okay, I mean, you got super sexy Sydney Sweeney right there, and yet this movie ain't made for men. Okay, I wanted to see those titties, but instead we get Brandon Skellner's ass. I don't want to see that. I want to see the titties. You see what I mean? Oh, but this movie wasn't made for you. Clearly it wasn't, but I watched it anyway, and I reviewed it. Okay, so let's get back to the movie here, okay? Well, we left off last time. We get Millie's backstory. Turns out she went to a rich private school, okay, on a scholarship. I guess she came from a poor family or something, okay, and her roommate let in this super hot, sexy boy into the girls' dormitory. Yeah. Okay, you ever watch that episode of Facts of Life where the girl snuck in a boy upstairs into their room and then fucked him? Remember that episode? No, you didn't see it because it never happened, okay? It never happened. Okay, because there's usually there's things in place to make sure you don't sneak a boy into the girls' area. Okay, this super expensive private school that Millie went to didn't have that. Okay, this girl, her roommate, no less, Kelsey, snuck a boy into her room to do what? To play dominoes or something? What? To watch Big Bang Theory? What? What did she sneak him in for? It's obvious what she snuck him in for. And guess what? Because the door doesn't lock. And there's nothing but women in the hallway. Anybody can walk in. Guess what? Millie walks in and catches her roommate getting plowed by this kid. We never find out his name. Okay? I mean, he's plowing her. Okay? But the look on her face means that it's, not wanted. Okay? It's unsolicited. Okay? Therefore, she's crying and stuff while he's doing it. All that kind of stuff. He's got his hand over her mouth. Okay? Which still... I mean, if I was her, I would have screamed, but hey, who am I to say? Anyway, so because this guy did not notice that the door just opened behind him, there's a woman standing over him watching him commit a sexual assault in a girl's room, okay, in the girls section of the private school. He doesn't even turn around to see who it is or anything like that. He just keeps plowing away. It reminds me of a story I heard about I think it was Jack Warner. Yes, Warner Brothers, back Golden Age of Hollywood. Okay, Jack Warner, okay, who was the head of Warner Brothers, okay, he had lots of actors under contract for him, okay, and one of them was this guy named Eddie Albert, okay, this is back in the 40s, okay, Eddie Albert was working for Jack Warner in the late 40s, okay, now you remember Eddie Albert, he was Mr. Douglas from Green Acres, okay, you remember that Green Acres, okay, that was him, okay, that was Eddie Albert, okay, he was a leading man back in the 40s, okay. When he got old, that's when he started doing Green Acres TV, Okay. Anyway, so Jack Warner, the head of Warner Brothers, he came home one day and he walked into his bedroom and there was Eddie Albert plowing his wife. Okay? Plowing his wife. Jack Warner, the head of Warner Brothers, just walked in and found one of his contract actors banging his wife. Okay? Well, of course, the next day, Jack Warner, ripped up his contract, terminated it. And they asked him. He's like, "Did you terminate Eddie Albert's contract because you caught him fucking your wife?" He's like, "No, that's not why I did it at all. The reason I terminated his contract is because after I walked in on them, he didn't stop." It was the disrespect. When your boss catches you fucking his wife, you're supposed to stop and apologize and put your pants back on. But he didn't do that. He kept going. Okay, that's a true story, by the way. Anyway, so that reminded me of this. Okay, so the door opens. Millie walks in there. Here's this guy plowing out her roommate. Okay, she doesn't want it. Okay, so when Millie grabs a snow globe and just beats him over the head to death with it. Okay, the cops arrive for a reason that's never explained in this movie. The roommate Kelsey lies to the cops. I don't know what story she told them. I mean, clearly, if you look at the state she was in, clearly she was sexually assaulted, but I guess she says something like, "No, that didn't happen." if you look at the state of the body, I'm assuming that they didn't touch the body and move it or nothing like that. This dead kid has the back of his head bashed in. Okay, his pants, his underwear are down to his ankles. Okay, he got hit from behind. He's on his stomach. Okay, so clearly he did not see his attacker. Okay, so it's pretty obvious what was happening. Okay, he was raping her. He was raping that girl, and then Millie came in there and killed him. Okay, that's what happened. But the cops don't believe it. They charge her with first-degree murder. Her lawyer tells her, hey, just you know, they'll give you 15 years, 10 with good behavior if you just, you know, confess, if you just plead guilty, you know, they'll give you a deal. So that's what she did. So she spent 10 years in prison. Okay, they let her out early, okay, on parole, but that's what she did. Okay, that's why she was in prison. Okay, because nobody believed her when she tried to stop a rape from happening. Okay, she accidentally killed the kid for whatever. All right, and I get that, you know, the kid deserved it, but it's not realistic. I already talked about that in the last video. It's not realistic, the circumstances of how this boy was raping her. First of all, they would have had to doctor all the evidence. They would have to tamper with the crime scene in order for the cops or a detective with half a brain to believe the story, the bullshit story that the rape girl was saying. Clearly, it's obvious. Okay, this girl was being raped. Okay, and Millie tried to stop it, but of course the movie's not going to explain why the detective was so fucking stupid. The only way to excuse this would be like if Millie and Kelsey both tampered the crime scene. You know, like put his pants back up, you know, zipped it back up, you know, put the belt back on, all that kind of shit. But then they would have been tampering with everything. And then, of course, Kelsey would have had to do her face, put her clothes back on, and all that kind of stuff. You know, but that didn't happen. Okay? A blind man could see what really happened here. But we're supposed to believe that she was charged with first-degree murder. Like she planned it or something, you know? Anyway, so she goes to prison for 10 years, and she gets out. Okay? Millie... she takes a plea deal for manslaughter, okay, and she gets 15 years instead. She gets out in 10, okay. Now, how is it that, you know, that Nina looked? Now, what I don't understand is Nina, before she hired Millie, before she interviewed Millie, she looked up Millie's background on online, okay. So how was it that Nina looked up Millie's background, okay, and easily determined that Millie killed a rapist in the middle of a rape, okay? But the judge, the cops, the lawyers, the jury, and the entire school couldn't see it. So here's another where the movie fails. How the fuck is it that the school, Millie's parents, the cops that were there, including the detectives, the jury, the attorneys on both sides, and the judge all believe that Millie killed this boy in cold blood? They all believe that. But yet one woman's Google search on Millie clearly shows that Millie killed a rapist while he was in the middle of a rape. Nina immediately determined that Millie killed a rapist while he was raping her roommate. Thereby, Millie is not a cold-blooded murderer. She was trying to protect this girl. Nina figured that out from a Google search, but yet the jury, the lawyers, the school, her own parents couldn't figure that out. You see what I mean? Okay. Her first job out, okay, she gets Millie, her first job when she gets out of prison, she's on parole. Okay, she still owes the state 5 more years. So her parole officer told her earlier that if she can't find a job or anything happens, or if she commits a felony or an assault or anything, she's going right back to jail to complete her 5 years behind bars. Okay? So what's the first thing Millie does? She gets out and she gets a job at a bar where they serve alcohol. That's the first shot she gets out of prison. Now, I don't know if she was a waitress or a bar back or whatever. Maybe she was even a bartender, who knows? But that's the first job she gets out of prison, okay? At a place called Charlie's, a bar called Charlie's, all right? And of course, all men, this movie tells us that all men are sexual assaulters. They're all rapists. They're all, they're all sexual harassers. They're all these things. All men are, okay? So of course the job she gets at Charlie's, the owner, Charlie himself, here he is sexually harassing one of the waitresses. And he's doing it right there behind the bar in front of the customers. He's squeezing her arm. He's standing behind her, squeezing her arm. She's clearly not comfortable with this. And he's just like, you know, like that. Okay? And here's the thing. There's a whole bunch of customers right there in the bar. Okay? A bunch of men. There's even a guy sitting right there watching this all happen, only like 2 feet in front of him. And he does nothing. He just sips his beer and watches. Are you out of your fucking mind? Any average guy were to see something like that, they would step in and say something at least. I know I would. I wouldn't just sit there and keep drinking my beer thinking it's cool. Hey, yeah, let's harass some women. That's awesome. That's what we all like to do. Are you out of your fucking mind? But this movie portrays all men that way. Like I said, they're all either perpetrators or they have no agency. They can't do anything about it. Like Enzo, he can't do anything about it. He just has to stand there and watch because he can't help. This is bullshit. This owner, Charlie, is harassing his employees, okay, in front of his own customers. This is a load of shit. If you want me to believe that the owner regularly sexually harasses his own employees, first of all, he's open for a huge fucking lawsuit if he does that. Because the court system will automatically take the woman's side before his. He has to prove he didn't do it. That's going to fuck up his business. That's going to cost him a shitload of money in legal fees to prove that in court. There are so many protections against that. This guy will lose his business. He will lose all his fucking money, and he's going to lose his freedom. Why would a guy like that risk everything just so he can fuck a goddamn 21-year-old waitress? You see what I mean? It doesn't balance. A guy's gonna throw away his entire fucking career, his whole livelihood for a piece of ass? It's not realistic. But let's say he is that. Let's say he does harass his employees, all right? He's not going to do it in front of all the other customers. For all he knows, there could be a fucking attorney sitting at his bar waiting to take this case. He's not going to do that. He's going to do it in back where nobody can see, where there's no cameras, like in the office. Or a storage room or something like that. Someplace where it can be, it's her word against mine. You see what I mean? This movie doesn't even get the fucking criminals right. So anyway, Millie is standing like 20 feet away and she sees the owner, Charlie, like, you know, squeezing the arms of the girl, you know. And instead of her going up to her boss, the owner of the bar, hey, leave her alone. Instead of doing that, what does she do? Does she tell him, hey, quit doing that? Does she say stop? Does she say, hey, Charlie, hold on a second. What are you doing there? You know? Does she do it? No, she doesn't. You know what she does? She picks up a fucking bottle of Patron and just fucking clocks him over the head with it. That's what she does. Like, what the fuck? Remember, this is in public. This is in front of all the customers. This isn't hidden in some closet somewhere or in an office. This is in front of everybody. In front of witnesses, she picks up a bottle of fucking tequila River and fucking clocks him over the head with it. And he's like, oh. Of course, he doesn't do anything. He doesn't like punch her or something like that. That's probably what I would have done. But then again, I never would have sexually harassed a woman. Okay? Yeah, she clocked him over the head with a fucking bottle. Okay, that's assault and battery. Right there. Boom. Directly back into fucking prison. Now, I'm not excusing the owner's actions, okay? But there are so many resources she can do. She can file sexual harassment It's protected. Her right to work is protected under federal law. So she does that, okay? She loses her job, and she tells him some shit like, "You motherfucker, you leave her the fuck alone." Like, you see what I mean? Like, this is bullshit, okay? And you know what? The weirdest thing about this is Charlie does not report her to her parole officer. He does not tell the parole officer why she's not working there anymore. And how do I know that? Because earlier in the movie, the parole officer asked her, "Hey, whatever happened to that job at Charlie's?" And she says, well, I found this job as a housemaid who it pays better, so I quit that job and took this one. You see what I mean? This is bullshit. If this guy would have called the cops, "Hey, I just got fucking assaulted here. She just fucking hit me with a fucking bottle." And yes, her parole officer would have known about it, and she would have been thrown right back in jail. And now, is it to excuse this guy for harassing that girl? No. It's because you don't just fucking hit someone with a fucking head with a bottle. At least, that's not the first thing you do. Hey, stop that. If you do not quit touching her, I swear to God, I'm going to call the cops right now. And say it in front of everybody. Plenty of witnesses there. You see what I mean? So don't give me that shit. Well, she did the right thing. No, the right thing would have been, "Hey, get your fucking hands off of her." That would have been the right thing. Okay, so that's going on here. What do you call it? He doesn't, Charlie, obviously he fires her or she quits or whatever. He does not report her to her parole officer. Okay, he does not charge her with assault and battery, even though that's what it was. Okay, in fact, like I said, the parole officer never even found out why Millie left that job, all right? So in her boring monologue, during Millie's boring monologue while she's locked up in the attic room, okay, and we see her, drinking water. There's 3 bottles of water in the mini fridge there, and we see her pissing into a bucket in the closet. There's no bathroom in that room. Okay, all that kind of shit. While she's in the closet there, she finds a cake cutter. Now, how the fuck did the cake cutter get there? There's a little piece of metal that you use it to cut a cake. Okay, like triangle-shaped metal thing, okay? It's not sharp, but, it's tough. She finds it inside the closet. Now, how did it get there? Now, I saw Nina with it earlier, but when did Nina ever, hide it there? I don't remember that scene. It's just there for some fucking reason. But did Nina put it there? And if she did, how did she know Millie would find it? You see what I mean? Anyway, so that's going on here, okay? Like I said, when the hell was it left there? Okay, now, obviously Andrew gave her an ultimatum. He told her, "Hey, listen, he snuck in a piece of broken china under the door and told her that because she broke those china plates, she broke that plate into 21 pieces. So because of that, she needs to take this jagged piece of china and cut into her flesh 21 times. And after she does that, then he will consider freeing her from that room." Okay? So painfully, Millie starts doing that, okay? She starts cutting her abdomen with the broken dish, the jagged piece, okay? 21 lines, deep cuts, 1 for every piece. That's what he told her. So Nina and Cece, the next thing we see is Nina and Cece. They're eating at this restaurant. Okay, now clearly what happened here, Nina, it turns out she did all this on purpose. She hired Millie as the housemaid, the sexy girl, on purpose so that she could seduce her husband, so that her husband would pick Millie over her and kick Nina out of the house. That's what Nina wanted because she's been stuck with this abusive asshole. Okay, she married this abusive asshole. Okay, and he's put her in the nut house before. Okay, and he's threatened to kill her and her daughter if she doesn't obey him. So instead of her leaving, she found a way to get him to leave her. Okay, and she hired her replacement is what she did, knowing full well, treating Millie like absolute shit because she did not let Millie in on this. knowing full well that once Andrew kicked her out, she could take her daughter and leave, knowing that Millie will be the next victim. You see what I mean? This is the hero of the story, just so you know. So anyway, so now that she's free of Andrew because Millie took her place, Nina and Cece, that's her daughter, that's her like 8-year-old daughter, they're eating there at the restaurant, okay? And Nina's all happy and excited, not once thinking about fucking Millie being tortured in that house, okay, by her psycho soon-to-be ex-husband. She's just happy that her and her daughter are free, okay? And it's supposed to be the hero. Nina's supposed to be the fucking hero. Think about the way that she treated Millie this entire time. So in order for her to escape with her daughter, she had to treat Millie like absolute fucking shit. Absolute shit. Up to and including leaving Millie there to be a fucking a tortured prisoner. You see what I mean? How do you justify this? You can't. So anyway, her daughter Cece tells Nina, "Mom, what about Millie?" You know, because Nina's like, "Hey, we're leaving. Guess what? We're gonna start a new life together, just you and me." But Mom, what about Millie? And she's like, "Millie's gonna stay with Daddy." Well, Mom, I think Millie should come with us. And she's like, what the fuck? If you expect me to believe that Nina was really this caring, loving, a little bit naive person who got taken advantage of and was exploited because she was going through hard times, if you want me to believe that, then why the fuck does this movie justify the way she treated Millie throughout this entire movie? She treated Millie like a total fucking psycho bitch. And if that's not bad enough, she left Millie there, knowing that Andrew was going to torture her and abuse her. And it only took her daughter saying, maybe Millie needs to come with us, to all of a sudden get Nina to fucking be like, hey, you know what? You're right. I have been a fucking cunt. Okay? I never once thought about this innocent girl, you know, in this situation, the horrible situation that I put her in on purpose. But yeah, we're supposed to root for Nina, now that we know her backstory. This is a load of shit. This is a load of shit. All right. So Nina basically tells Cece, Millie can take care of herself. Okay, because Nina knows that Millie is a murderer, she assumes that if Andrew starts torturing her, that Millie will be able to defend herself from him and she will kill him. Because Nina knows that Millie has killed someone before. Okay? But here's the thing. Okay? At no time does Nina ever think that maybe Andrew will kill Millie instead. You know why? Because Nina said it herself. When she first got married, Andrew had that house built because before he met Nina, he was engaged to another woman. I think her name was Kathy or Carol or something like that. And Nina said, whatever happened to her? And apparently she jilted him. She stood him up at the altar. So now this house is yours and mine. You see what I mean? But Nina never asked whatever happened to that girl. All she knows is that she jilted him. Well, clearly, if this woman disappeared, clearly Andrew killed her. He killed her. Thereby, Andrew is also a killer, also a murderer. You see what I mean? So this is what Nina was thinking. Remember, she went to law school. This is what she was thinking. Well, either Andrew's going to kill her or Millie's going to kill Andrew. Either way, ain't my problem anymore. You see what I mean? And this is the hero. Get the fuck out of here. My God, these people do not know what the fuck they're doing. All right, I'm going to stop right here, but I'll be back to continue my review of The Housemaid. I thank you very much for watching this long, and I'll see you soon on the next one. Bye.